Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Avero Advisors live stream, where we come to you and talk to you about all things modernization in the public sector. I am joined today by our founder and CEO, Mr. Abhijit Verekar. Good morning, AB.
Morning, Megan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm very excited because today we are gearing up for ICMA. It is our last national conference of the season, and October is always an exciting month, right? We're planning for the new year. We're implementing new things. We've hired a lot of new folks and new faces with Avero. Business is booming, and we have a lot of exciting things to talk to you all about today. And it's been a long time since you and I have been on a live stream together. So I've missed you
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit.
What's that about?
I know, I
Yeah,
don't
me.
know. We've both
Okay.
been busy, I guess. So yes, if you are new to the Avero Advisors live stream, please join us in the comments and tell us where you're joining from. We'd love to hear your all's questions and thoughts on what we're talking about. And just a real quick, Avero Advisors is an independent third-party consulting firm specializing in IT, strategic planning, ERP consulting, AI consulting, as well as a new product offering that we're going to do a soft launch, I would say, today. So stay tuned and make sure that you follow us on all of our social media platforms. We are on every single channel and we go live every Wednesday, and this live stream becomes multiple forms of content. So make sure that you follow us to stay up to date on the latest and greatest. Whew, that's a mouthful to try to get through in an intro, but like I mentioned, we are headed to ICMA in Tampa. And for those of you who don't know, it is the International City Management Association. So we will have a booth there, booth number 814. And AV has a speaking slot, which we'll dive into a little bit later, at 9:15 on Wednesday morning. So again, 9:15 on Wednesday morning. But AV, let's dive in. What you've been going to these conferences for years, right? And I want to know what excites you most about going to these and being in the vendor hall and, building relationships with other vendors and
Yeah, I
attendees.
think you hit the nail on the head there. It's all about relationships. Conferences they can be the same, right? It's a lot of work. You're standing at your booth, you're shaking hands and getting to know people. The most valuable thing for me is meeting new people, right? Expanding on network, getting to know new prospects and new product offerings on the market, and learning about the trends. Like we try to stay abreast of what's going on in the market, and conferences are a great way to not only walk around the vendor hall and see what other software providers or vendors are doing or competitors are doing, but also to see where the puck is going, so to speak, right? You have to keep your eye on the future. As consultants, it's our job to make sure we're bringing those um, ideas and best practices, so to speak, to our customers and prospects. So really excited about just diving into the industry again. And by the way, this is going to be a last show of the year with a booth and all that. I am going to be at the GovAI Coalition conference in San Jose early November. So we'll talk about that too, because the themes overlap, right? AI in government and ICMA. It'll give us a good sense of where ICMA and the city management um, community is on AI. And then an AI focused conference will let us dive into the specifics of what's going on in the market. So super exciting stuff.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Let's go ahead and dive into that. So, we've had a big year of conferences, right? And with the conversation of AI, I feel like it's leapfrogged just since GFOA, right? And you will be attending the Gov AI Coalition Summit in November. So, can you dive into some common themes? Like, what are you seeing, and how is Avero transitioning based on those themes?
Well, we're seeing a lot of obviously talk about AI. People want to investigate and see what fits, what doesn't. Um, we're going through a cycle where our clients are adopting newer technologies. They're trying out new things in silos, as they should, because these are unproven technologies for the most part. And if you don't have your foundation right, they're not going to work for you, right? So the way I put it is you still have to do the non-sexy stuff of policy making, of business process design, cleaning up your data, making sure you have the right infrastructure and strategy overall for your technology before you can dive deep into AI. So we came up with our AI maturity model last year that has been very useful to several clients on just understanding where they stand in terms of being able to adopt AI. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out a QR code for the maturity assessment that once you scan it, you get a downloadable that allows you to really measure where you stand on the 5-level scale. The other thing that's happening is software products are sort of becoming homogenous, like they're commoditized. Yeah, you have the big stickers with their own differentiators, but a product that does financials and GL, the processes and the look and feel of it is not that different between products. So our clients are now getting very savvy about what it is that differentiates their project from another project, right? So going back to the non-sexy stuff, process redesign, strategy, governance, change management, user adoption, how do you prepare your community for taking on a new product suite is the most critical aspect of what we do. And I think that's going to become even more important as we go forward. So lots of things changing, lots of things in flux. The way we are adopting AI is internally, we've done a lot of work on automating our own internal processes. We built our own AI engines and brains that do specific things in our workflows. And soon we're going to be able to really offer AI enhanced consulting services where you're not relying on just interviews and observations, but also we're going to go beyond that. We'll still do that because what do people buy when they buy consulting services? They actually buy the ability to talk to people that have been there before and learn from others' successes and mistakes. It's not just about feeding data into a thing and it giving you recommendations, which, by the way, can be done on GPT. Please don't do it because that means you're giving your data away to OpenAI, especially if it's the free version. So the context that consultants bring to the table will not and should not go away. But there is a way to make these projects run faster, more efficiently, so that we get to the results faster. So several things in the pipeline. We're automating several things while keeping the consulting, the core of the consulting profession alive. And then what you'll see soon is clients will be able to build their own product, what I call micro SaaS, right? There's a lot of major ERP vendors out there that allow no code application building on their platforms. But then the challenge becomes, how do you, the CIO, control what happens within your infrastructure there? Because you can't just let people build applications willy-nilly, because then you'll end up in the same situation where you don't know what applications exist and what impacts what. And some small app somewhere will be the linchpin of your workflows. So we're trying to think through all of that. And at the core of it, it's strategy. It's just pure old technology, digital transformation strategy with a huge AI component now. And of course, there's always cybersecurity involved in all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about hot topics around AI. We oftentimes get asked, like, what are we seeing are the most promising pilots? Like, how can we actually use AI in our city, right? What are folks doing? How are we implementing it? What is the most promising use case in your opinion?
So I'll tell you a live example. We're doing a pilot project with a pretty large police department in the US that currently tracks their overtime hours on note cards. And it's not a software system called note card. It is a physical note card that each officer fills out, passes it on to their supervisors, who then eventually physically takes it to the payroll department, who then enters all of this into an Excel spreadsheet, which is then ingested or re-entered into their PeopleSoft payroll system. And what we are doing with them is, because of how quickly we can iterate on product. It's not necessarily an AI product, but it's an AI-enabled micro SaaS product, as I call it, because it's going to solve a specific, very small problem, which, by the way, may seem small, but that PD spends 3 people full time every week just taking care of this issue. So if you can automate that process, right, that's a very good pilot that I can think of. On the other side, we have partners and friends like Madison AI or Polymorphic that are doing some great work on in Madison's in their product suite is what they have this product that does nothing but ingests commission and council and board meeting information so that you can have conversations with that data, you can find things when you need them, and that is internal and external focused. And then our friends at Polymorphic have done a great job on the whole customer service aspect of local government, where they are building at a minimum, they're building bots that can intelligently converse and provide services to your customers that are coming to your website. And of course, there's other applications that go with that. So a few that I can think of, we've talked about a lot of other ones internationally too. We just, Singapore is a great example where they have really nailed down citizen services through AI recently. So lots of good things happening, but again, it doesn't happen without proper thought, and you can't just go there and go outside and buy something and plug it into your environment. That's not going to work.
Guys, I just got a notification that the chat box wasn't working or the QR code wasn't working. So I will go back in and reshare. If you do have a question for us, feel free to message AV or I privately. So sorry about the technical difficulties there. I have no clue what's going on, but just wanted to throw that out there. If you do have questions or comments, please feel free to private message us and we will get back to you shortly. Let's talk about AI governance. That's a large topic of conversation. Is my data safe? How am I protecting my organization? I know you have a few examples of a few cities who have implemented strong, responsible AI governance. What lessons stood out about privacy and compliance in those examples, AB?
I think, again, it's not, there's two ways of looking at it. You have to be careful about your data anyway, AI or not. You have to make sure that it is secure, it's clean, it's usable. And on the other side, on the AI side, it really depends on how you're setting up your AI environments, right? Are you centralizing it? Are you building your own LLMs? Are you building your own captive versions of commercially available LLMs? What are you building on top of that? So it all starts with data governance. It starts with policies. It starts with processes. Again, I can't stress that enough. At the end of the day, anything AI is still a software project. It's still an implementation. So the principles that govern good implementations should not be thrown away just because now, ChatGPT or Copilot says that they can do it all. So in terms of privacy, in terms of data governance, in terms of data hygiene, if nothing else, it has put a bigger burden or emphasis on those things, because without that, you're not going to be able to leverage anything AI. So the maturity model actually shows you at what point can you take advantage of what kind of opportunities in AI. Because again, it is not as straightforward as the marketing from these companies might tell you. We have a question. Do you see it?
We do, from Lindsay. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. Do you want to read it? You want me to? You got it?
You read it.
Okay. All right. So I can't see the top of it because it says hi. Okay. As a former finance advisory board chair for the city of Largo, I'm excited for ICMA 2025 in Tampa. In your view, how can mid-sized cities best evaluate consulting and vendor partners to ensure transformation efforts deliver both value and transparency? That's a great question, Lindsay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think the first thing to do is to make sure that they're truly unbiased, right? If you're looking for a consulting partner, you need to make sure that they're consulting on your best in your best interest, that they don't have any biases or reseller agreements, or they don't particularly sell a specific thing. Because in our experience, then it becomes the only prism or the only lens that they look at you through, right? So the number one thing to do is to see if the consultant is truly unbiased, truly third party, because even within that, there are several flavors of consulting where you can claim to be independent, but at the same time, you may have another arm or a subsidiary that does work only with Workday or only with SAP. So those are just some examples. And for mid-sized cities, the choices are pretty good, actually, right? Because your problems are substantial enough for consultants like us to really get interested in your work. And the key question is, what are you trying to solve? And if the consultant isn't helping you sharpen your question on what the outcomes should be from this project, then you're not talking to the right consulting group, right? Because the number one thing is, even when we respond to RFPs that have a very skinny or vague scope, we're like, what problem is this organization trying to solve? And when we get into a Q&A or when we get a contract with those organizations, that's where we go. I know you said you want a software product evaluated and selected, but let's back up and tell me why you're doing this now and what the key pain points are. So that doesn't happen unless the consultant is a true consultant that can really talk to you through an unbiased lens without trying to sell you a specific thing, because the outcomes are the universe of outcomes that can come from a transformation project are it's very large. So how do you nail it down to your outcomes? How do you nail it down to your vision? How do you nail it down to your budget and legislative sort of environment? All of that is very important before you even talk about a product. So I hope that answered your question. A very good one. Thank you so much, Lindsay.
And Lindsay, I would say too, just client references. I think clients will tell you the truth about the work that any consultant has done. So asking for references, I think, is always good as well, to get it straight from the horse's mouth, if you will, about the work that they do. So I think references is a good one.
Let me add one more thing.
Amy?
The partnership
Go ahead.
aspect of this is critical, right? What we say to our
Mhm.
clients is our three unique things are we're nimble. We'll move at your speed and sometimes bring you along to our speed. So we can change how we approach. It's not a cookie cutter approach. We will tailor an approach to you. Second thing is we are independent. Like I said, we don't advocate for any of the vendors. Not that we're adversaries. We have good relationships with them, but our interest is in getting you to your desired outcome. And then the third thing is we're in it with you. We treat this as a partnership. We are very careful about who we choose to work with. And if it's not a two-way partnership, if it's not us working as an extension of your organization, then it's not a good fit. It's not going to give you the outcomes that you desire. So a partnership, working in partnership, and always being transparent and providing good feedback, timely feedback to each other is absolutely critical. But it's hard to determine that just through an RFP process or through a short project. So, but we've been successful at doing that.
Yes, ICMA is a great place to vet your vendors, especially in the vendor hall. I will say we're not ones to be awkward in the vendor hall. We do like having conversations. We might be doing a little bit of whiteboarding this year, just to make it more comfortable. But a vendor hall is a great place to start building those relationships and understanding what those service offerings are from vendor partners. So back to AI, Lindsay, thank you for your question. That was a great question. I love this idea, about failure as a strategy. How can cities, counties, municipalities, how can they get more comfortable about piloting an AI product?
You need to do small things, right? Like I said, with the whole overtime tracking application that we're piloting, it's a small thing. It doesn't impact anything else. It doesn't impact the city's ERP system, their payroll system, none of that. It's just solving the one problem that takes 3 people 3 whole days to tackle manually, right? Can be done in an automated fashion right away. So starting small, trying different things, not putting a lot of your assets and resources into the same basket or same project as you try AI products and applications out is really important because just like any product implementation, if it goes wrong, uh, you can derail a whole organization by trying something big that is not ready for prime time yet. So starting small,
Right.
getting the product to prove itself, making sure it's getting the right results, and again, getting you closer to your outcomes, which may be several and varied, right? You may want to make things more efficient. You may be in a budget crunch. You may be thinking of reallocation of resources and human resources. So, what is the thing that you're trying to achieve through this pilot project? Defining that upfront is critically important. Understanding your maturity, whether or not you are mature enough to take on this kind of project in terms of your policies, processes, people's readiness to even try things. I know most people are trying GPT on their own, but you need to make sure that there are policies around that, what people are allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do with your data. All of that is important as you define what the outcome should be. And then pick a small pilot. Pick a small pilot. And my talk at ICMA next week is about using technology to build trust in the public, because what we're finding is there's an expectation gap, right? You want your local government, when you have to deal with them, to work like Amazon. Your permits should be visible to you, the state of, the status of the permits, what information do you need to give them. All of that needs to be transparent. And so when you're dealing with Amazon or Tesla in the commercial side, in your private lives, or iPhones, things work so easy. And then you go try to get something done in the public sector, and the expectation gap is huge. So how do you use technology to leverage that? It's a great time for the industry to really think about how do you use AI-enabled products or AI-enabled services to bridge that gap, to leapfrog the investments and the time spent by these large companies to get to that point, because it's not overnight. But with the use of AI, you could save some time as you try to get there. And you may never get to an Amazon level of service, but that's okay. You need to just close the gap on where you are today. So that's going to be my talk on Wednesday, the 26th in Tampa at 9:15. Megan? Yeah, I think it's 9:15. Yeah,
9:15.
look me up.
Early.
I'll be there.
Look, you want to talk new solutions and innovations from our side? Are you ready?
Yeah,
Ready for the soft launch?
yeah. I mean, I think we've kind of talked about it briefly, right? Our approach to consulting needs to change. There's several things happening in the market. One is, the traditional route of helping clients um, produce and release RFPs. It takes too long, and it's
Yes.
yes, there is lots of value in slowing things down and making sure they're done right. But if the time is being spent on manual stuff, on manual business process mapping, on manual requirements definitions, on manual back and forth with subject matter experts, that's what takes a lot of time. The time and material aspect of it is what takes a lot of time. So what we are doing is we're trying to turn that around. Again, like I said, the intent is not to kill the consulting uh, heart that we all have, where we're in this because we like helping people, and that can't go away. But a lot of the manual workarounds and the work that we do can be easily automated. So we're not being uh, cavalier about it. We've actually really built our in-house um, systems that can allow us to use our own intelligence from over 10 years that will be available to our clients. So 2 or 3 ways of looking at it. One is we can offer the same services at a higher quality, definitely at a faster pace. We can get you from strategy to RFP in a shorter time, and using our own data sets help you do a more data-based selection process, right? Data-enabled selection process. So at the end of the day, you want to make sure that the products you select are defensible, that they're not being picked because of feelings. Of course, you have to have your personal preferences built in. So our own tool sets will enable us to do this in a much faster, higher quality way. And I can't wait to actually launch it. We can start soft talking about it, right? And then the other thing is micro SaaS. Again, what is it that the major players would never get to, right? Some little workflow that someone built 20 years ago that does a very important thing, but no one wants to modernize it. It sits on a small server somewhere, and big players are not interested. I mean, they may be interested, but they'll ask you for a lot of money to customize something like that. So there's a lot of scope and chance for consultants like us to just fix problems today with the right kind of tool set, and adding that to our tool belt, I think is going to be valuable to us and our clients.
Absolutely. I'm excited. So we've talked about technology. We've talked about new innovations, ICMA. Let's talk a little bit about workforce development. What type of skills are people going to need in this new era of AI and of digital transformation?
Lots of curiosity, lots of trial and error. There is no, I'm sure there's classrooms that will teach you AI, but things move so quickly that you should be doing this on your own. You should be curious about newer technology. You should be curious about new AI products. Again, they don't cost a lot to try. A lot of them have free trials, so go try them out. See what works in your workflow. Now, of course, we're talking about personal lives, right? At the enterprise level, you better be the organization better have a strategy for what's allowed, what's not allowed, or how do you govern what is allowed within your infrastructure. And then for individuals that are looking to get ahead or survive in the new AI world, I think the biggest strength is just teaching yourself. Get yourself on YouTube and just watch things and learn things and read up on all the things, because AI and AI products will automate a lot of things, but you still need context and taste, and people will need to be interacting with the AI products. So it's not all doom and gloom. At least I don't think so. But you can't be left behind. You need to educate and train yourself.
How are our clients, addressing these skill gaps? Have you seen any sort of unique trainings or any certifications that they're offering their employees?
Not that I know of. I'll find out more when I go to the GovAI conference. But I know that our clients, they bring us in to talk about AI. I'm doing a training session this afternoon with a large client as they're getting ready to go through a selection process. Obviously, major and minor vendors are going to present AI capabilities of their products. And so selection committee that is full of accountants, asset managers, airport operators, what have you, how do they know what is right for them and what's not, right? Because the requirements are pretty slim. It says, make us more efficient, make us more automated, make us more transparent in the AI realm. So what does that mean when the vendor says, our AI is built on blah, blah, blah LLM, or here's the number of parameters we've used, or these are the no-code application building abilities you have. So how do you judge that apples to apples? How do you just have a framework that tells you as an evaluator what things mean and how to apply that selection work that you're doing? So that, we're doing that kind of work with our clients. But again, a training program that's out there is probably already outdated, unless I'm not up to speed, which I don't think.
Yeah. Well, thank you, AV. This has been a great conversation. I really am excited to see you all at ICMA this Sunday. and start building those relationships and helping you define the outcomes that you need for your organizations. Do you have any last minute thoughts as we wrap up today?
Yeah, I wanted to go through some of the key topics that are being spoken about at ICMA next week, and also at the
Okay.
WAI Coalition. Some really what may seem like same old topics, like my topic is how do you increase trust in local government using technology, but the angle is different,
Mhm.
right? We're gonna be talking about how do you do strategic planning, how do you evaluate AI, how do you use that to build trust? So a slightly different angle. And then the hot topics are for any conference, I think the last 2 years have been responsible AI governance, lessons in privacy compliance, sustainable AI and environmental impact. There's a lot of talk about how proliferation of data centers in AI is.
Hey, I'm sorry to cut you off. You're getting a little fuzzy on you got feedback in the mic. We can't understand you.
Let's switch it up. How's that? Just going old school.
Better, way better.
Yeah, so
Yep.
sustainable AI, environmental impact. We've seen a lot of stories recently where data center permits are being denied by city councils because of the perception around electricity usage or noise or what have you around these, or water use around these data centers that are dedicated to
Mhm.
AI. So that's going to be a big topic. Equity by design. You mentioned failure as a strategy. That's a cool topic. I'd love to go to that. Collaborative procurement models, pooled buying power, vendor transparency. Critical. I was in a LinkedIn conversation yesterday with somebody talking about just that. Procurement needs to evolve quickly because they're still applying standards from 20 years ago to software purchases, and worse, sometimes it's construction bids disguised into or it's software bids, it's construction bids disguised as software bids, right? Where things just
Oh,
don't make sense.
yep.
So it's a good time to redesign that too, because of how quickly technology is going to move, and we can't be buying stuff like it's 1997 anymore. So that's a good one.
Right.
And then just I'm really looking forward to what mainstream tech looks like in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of options out there for our clients. As we do selection project, we're seeing lots of new players come and put their hat in the ring, and also the existing um, software vendors are also making a big push into moving downstream, as they call it, with SAP and Workday focusing on going to smaller organizations where previously they were only focused on the large cities and counties. Um, and so it's an exciting time for our clients because there's a lot more choice and options that will get you a better deal. Um, may not be completely, because we don't want to buy based on just the cheaper price, but you will get better deals from vendors on better service, better product, uh, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, price breaks because competition allows that. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts. But I'm really excited to see everybody at in Tampa in a few days, and in San Jose in a month or so.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us today. If we did not get to your questions or you weren't able to add a comment, please again reach out to us directly. I'm sorry that we had technical difficulties earlier today. Again, follow us on every social media platform. We are very much nerds about the content that we put out, and we want to make sure that you guys stay up to date on the latest and greatest trends and what's going on in this market. So LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, we are on every channel. And without further ado, I'm going to wrap it up. We will be at ICMA Sunday through Wednesday. And then maybe we'll do a little live stream from ICMA, just a quick recap, maybe some things that we're hearing. So look for us on LinkedIn again next week. And AV, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks, guys.
What was the booth number?
814. 814. And I will try to repost that on our channels too today, but it is 814. So swing by.